Part 1. The Invisible Timeline of an Economic Shock. The most significant financial event of 2026 occurred on February 28th, yet its true cost won't hit the average bank account until late autumn. While most people view economic shifts as immediate, the reality is a slow-moving fuse. Following a military strike on Iran, 5 distinct economic waves were set in motion, each operating on a different timeline and moving toward your wallet under various disguises. Currently, the public is focused on the most visible symptom, the rising numbers at the gas station. Many are filing this under annoying but manageable. But that assessment is a fundamental misunderstanding of the situation. To understand the gravity, we have to look at the timeline. On February 27, 2026, diplomatic breakthroughs regarding Iran's nuclear program were reported. Just 24 hours later, Operation Epic Fury, a coordinated U.S. and Israeli strike, changed the global landscape. The retaliation was swift, with drones and missiles hitting Gulf military bases and oil infrastructure. By early March, the Strait of Hormuz, a critical 21-mile bottleneck for 20% of the world's seaborne oil, was effectively closed. For context, normal traffic is 130 ships per day. Within 2 weeks, that number dropped to nearly zero. This is the largest energy disruption in recorded history, dwarfing the shocks of the 1970s. While the government released 400 million barrels from emergency reserves, the largest in history, this was merely a temporary fire extinguisher. Oil prices skyrocketed from $71 to $120 per barrel in weeks. While it has dipped to $100 on ceasefire rumors, a prolonged conflict could easily push it to $150. This energy spike is Wave 1, but the danger lies in the 4 invisible waves following behind it. To illustrate this, consider 2 households. Maya, a teacher with modest savings and a disciplined investment plan, and Ryan and Jess, a couple with higher income but existing credit card debt. Both face the same news cycle, but their outcomes will diverge based on their actions in March 2026. Why the price of diesel is a bigger threat to your lifestyle than the gas in your own car, and how it's about to change the price of your dinner table. Part 2. The Logistics Trap and the Grocery Crisis. Wave 1 is the gas price you see today, a national average of $3.96, up more than $1 in a single month. However, the real danger is diesel, which has surged 47%. Diesel is the lifeblood of the physical supply chain. It powers the 18-wheelers, farm equipment, and refrigerated trucks that deliver every perishable item you consume. Every cent diesel rises translates directly into the cost of goods. A $1 increase in gas prices alone removes roughly $150 billion in annual consumer spending from the economy. For the average household, this means an extra $748 in fuel costs this year. This leads directly into Wave 2, groceries. This wave is already in motion and usually lands 30 to 60 days after a fuel spike. Unlike electronics or clothing, you cannot warehouse fresh produce for months to wait for lower shipping rates. Freight carriers pass 60% to 80% of fuel surcharges on to retailers almost immediately. Before this conflict, food inflation was around 2.4%. Now, economists project it climbing toward 4.4%. Specific items like beef, coffee, and sugar were already slated for increases. But the diesel spike acts as a massive multiplier. For someone like Maya, who has already begun batch cooking and canceled luxury meal kits, the impact is a manageable $40 to $70 monthly increase. For Ryan and Jess, who haven't adjusted their habits, the checkout counter in May will feel like a mystery. They will wonder why their bill is $55 higher, assuming they are buying more food when, in reality, they are simply paying for a military operation in the Persian Gulf. The global supply chain is a masterpiece of efficiency until it breaks, and when it does, the consumer pays the price. But the grocery crisis in May is only a preview. Stay tuned to learn about the invisible timer set for October that could result in a total produce shortage. Part 3. The fertilizer factor and the travel tax. While gas and groceries are obvious, Wave 3 is the one almost no one is talking about. Fertilizer. Natural gas is the primary raw material for nitrogen fertilizer, accounting for 70% to 90% of production costs. Furthermore, a third of the world's seaborne fertilizer trade passes through the now-closed Strait of Hormuz. Within 1 week of the conflict, fertilizer prices jumped over 30%. In some regions, retailers have stopped even quoting prices because they cannot guarantee they will have the product. This is an invisible timer because planting for the 2026 harvest is happening right now. The decisions farmers make today regarding how much fertilizer they can afford will dictate the yield of the fall harvest. You won't feel this in the spring. You will feel it in October, when the produce aisle looks thin and prices for basic staples hit record highs. Maya is preparing by looking into a chest freezer to lock in current prices, while Ryan and Jess will likely be blindsided by crazy prices in the fall without understanding the root cause. Meanwhile, Wave 4 is hitting your summer plans. Airfare. Jet fuel has surged 60% since the Strait closure. Since fuel is an airline's largest expense, they have only 2 choices: go bankrupt or pass the cost to you. Analysts project a 15% to 30% hike in summer travel fares. Some budget airlines have already seen prices nearly double in a week. Unlike groceries, airlines bake these costs in months in advance, meaning today's high prices are likely the lowest you'll see for the rest of the year. Maya booked her July flight early at $287. Just a few days later, that same ticket is $341. The most dangerous wave, however, isn't at the airport or the grocery store. It's a number that won't go down, and it's currently threatening to trap millions in a cycle of debt. Part 4. The interest rate trap and the path forward. The final and most devastating wave is Wave 5. Interest rates. At the start of 2026, many were banking on the Federal Reserve cutting rates to provide relief for mortgages and credit cards. Those hopes are now effectively dead. Higher oil prices create a double bind for the Fed. They push inflation up while simultaneously slowing down the economy. Currently, 30-year mortgages have climbed to nearly 6.45%, and the average credit card APR is a staggering 21% to 24%. Americans are carrying over $1.2 trillion in credit card debt. For households like Ryan and Jess, who have a $3,800 balance at 22% interest, this environment is toxic. Meanwhile, market volatility is scaring investors into making the most expensive mistake possible: selling during a downturn. Data shows that missing just the 10 best trading days in a decade can decimate your long-term returns, turning a potential 15,000% gain into a mere 91%. The recovery from these shocks usually happens in violent, sudden upswings, not a gradual climb. So, what can you actually do? First, expand your emergency fund. Nearly half of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency without debt. High-yield savings accounts are currently offering around 4.2%, which is 10 times the national average. There is no excuse not to use one. Second, treat high-interest debt like a house fire. Paying off a 22% credit card is the mathematical equivalent of a guaranteed tax-free 22% return, a gain you cannot find anywhere else. Finally, do not stop your investment contributions. The shares you buy during this period of fear will likely be some of the best performers in your portfolio years from now. Those who panicked in 2020 missed the fastest recovery in history. Set your automation, walk away, and let it run. The recovery from these shocks usually happens in violent, sudden upswings, not a gradual climb. The difference between those who thrive and those who struggle isn't luck or even income. It's the willingness to look past the annoying gas prices and prepare for the storm before it arrives.